On the night they announced I was a joke to everyone, my 4-year-old ran up and did something no one expected. The night I was called a fool in front of everyone I loved, my 4-year-old son ran onto the stage, pointed at the man who betrayed me, and said one word that silenced the whole room. That one word changed everything. I used to think that love could fix anything. That if you gave people your best, your loyalty, your trust, your faith, they'd give you the same in return. I learned that night how wrong I was. It was supposed to be the happiest evening of my life. The night I celebrated my engagement to Daniel Cross, the man everyone called a dream come true. I wore a soft cream gown my mother had once loved. The hall shimmered with golden lights and music. Our names, Daniel and Nora, glowed behind the stage in bold silver letters, and my 4-year-old son, Caleb, sat in the front row, holding a small bouquet of white lilies he said were for Mommy because she's the prettiest. It was perfect. Until it wasn't. The event planner had promised elegance and calm, but I noticed tension even before I walked in. Daniel was pacing near the bar, phone glued to his ear, voice low but sharp. When he saw me, he forced a smile. "There you are, beautiful. I was just sorting something important," he said, slipping his arm around my waist. His touch felt colder than usual. I tried to laugh it off. "Can't we have one night without business calls?" He kissed my cheek. "This call is business, the kind that'll make our future perfect." It sounded romantic, but the look in his eyes wasn't. It was calculation, not love. I brushed the thought away. Maybe I was imagining things. When the music started, everyone clapped. Friends, colleagues, even the local mayor, all here to celebrate the man they believed was a rising star. And me, the woman lucky enough to stand beside him. I gave a short speech, simple and from the heart. I thanked everyone for believing in us. I talked about second chances and love after heartbreak. I even mentioned how Daniel had been there for Caleb and me when I'd felt lost. People smiled, applauded, cheered. Daniel squeezed my hand as I stepped off the stage. He whispered, "You always make them love you." I smiled shyly. "Isn't that what you wanted?" He didn't answer. Half an hour later, Daniel raised his glass and walked to the microphone. "Everyone," he began, his charming voice filling the hall, "tonight isn't just about love, it's about truth." The crowd hushed. I felt a strange chill crawl up my spine. He looked at me, smiling the way he always did when something wasn't right. "You see," he continued, "love is easy when life's perfect. But what happens when your partner hides things? When she's not who you think she is?" My heart stopped. The hall went silent. My fingers tightened around my glass. I managed to whisper, "Daniel." "What are you doing?" He ignored me. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "let me introduce you to the real Nora Hayes." He gestured toward the screen behind him. A slideshow flickered to life. Photos of me, personal ones, taken without my knowledge. Pictures from before I met him when I was struggling, old job applications, rejected checks, hospital bills from Caleb's birth. The crowd began to whisper. I heard my name, heard laughter, heard pity. Daniel's voice cut through it all. She said she was independent, strong, a survivor. But what she didn't tell me was that she's been living off my money, using my contacts, pretending to be something she's not. She's been lying to me and to all of you. My vision blurred. It felt like the ground vanished beneath me. I shook my head. "Daniel, that's not true." "You know that's not true." He smiled cruelly calm. "Don't pretend, Nora. You told me your little business was thriving, but it's just my investment paying your bills. And the car you drive? My name's on that too. You've built your new life on my generosity." Gasps rippled through the hall. I felt 1,000 eyes pierce through me. Martha, my best friend, tried to stand, but Daniel's assistant blocked her. Someone whispered, "She used him." Another voice said, "She's just after his money." I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but my voice felt trapped behind my ribs. Then I heard a sound. Small footsteps. Caleb. He had climbed onto the stage, clutching the tiny bouquet of lilies, his eyes wide with confusion. "Mommy, why are you crying?" he asked softly. The hall went silent again. Even Daniel froze for a second. I knelt down, trembling, trying to steady my voice. "It's okay, baby. Go back to your seat." But he didn't. He turned to Daniel, his soon-to-be stepdad, and said in that innocent, clear voice only a child could have, "You're lying." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Daniel laughed awkwardly. "What did you say, buddy?" Caleb's tiny chin lifted. You said Mommy's poor. But I heard you tell the other man last night that you used Mommy's name for your company because she has clean papers. The hall gasped. Daniel's smile vanished. Color drained from his face. The whispers stopped. Even the music cut out. For a moment, no one breathed. Daniel took a step toward Caleb, trying to smile again. Kids make up stories, but Martha's voice cut through the air. No, Daniel, she said, standing up. I was there when you borrowed her ID documents for your project. I didn't know what you planned to do, but now I do. People turned their heads, first toward her, then back to him. Daniel's mask cracked completely. He tried to grab the microphone, but someone from the crowd shouted, Is that true? Another said, She's the one with clean credit, isn't she? That's how you got the contracts. And just like that, the power shifted. I stood frozen, tears streaming down my cheeks, as my little boy clung to me, his small hand gripping mine tightly. He didn't know what he'd just done, that he had saved me. That in one brave moment he had turned a humiliation into truth. Daniel's voice broke into a yell, but the crowd drowned him out. Reporters in the room started snapping photos. Martha stepped closer and whispered, Get Caleb out of here. It's over for him. I turned toward the exit, holding my son close. The laughter that had mocked me minutes ago was gone, replaced by murmurs of shock and realization. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't truly over. If Daniel was bold enough to humiliate me publicly, he would not stop quietly. He would come for revenge, and I would have to be ready. The morning after the engagement, the world felt like two halves. One half was praise and whispers. The other half was a slow, dark flood moving toward me. I woke to messages. Some were kind. Friends wrote, We are with you. Others were cold. My inbox had headlines from the night. A video of Caleb on stage went viral. Millions had already seen it. People debated online. Some said Daniel had exposed a lie. Others said he was cruel. The truth was messy. The world liked simple stories. It wanted a villain and a hero. I felt like both. Martha came to the house with takeout and a calm face. She hugged Caleb first, then me. You did the right thing, she said. He'll try to make this ugly. I nodded, but my hands shook. I wanted peace for Caleb. I wanted him to play and laugh. I did not want him to see our life in headlines. By noon, my phone rang. It was my manager from work. His voice was small. Nora, we need to talk, he said. A few clients called. They are nervous, I swallowed. My small business depended on trust. If people believed Daniel's words, even half of them, I could lose everything. I drove to the office. The street felt too bright. The receptionist gave me a paper. It was a short message. Please come to HR, now. In the meeting, they spoke quietly. We support you, Nora, HR said. But clients are pulling back. We must pause some projects. I felt the floor drop. My voice trembled. I did not lie, I said. Daniel knows that. They looked at me with soft pity. We know. But business is delicate now. Outside the building, a camera crew waited. A reporter asked for a comment. I turned away. My heart beat hard. I could feel the sting of shame again. Even if people now believed me, the world loved scandal. They had already made up their minds. Martha stayed at my side. She called Lena, the journalist who had helped people tell the truth. Lena promised to write a careful piece. We will not let him shape the story, she said. We will show documents and witnesses. That promise felt like a small light in the dark. But I knew Daniel had power too. He had money and lawyers. He had friends in places I did not know. By evening, the first attack came. Daniel posted a statement on his company site. He said he had good reason to be angry. He called the photos proof of deception. He said he had hoped to save me from trouble. He said he had tried to help. The post looked calm and factual, but under it, comments turned cruel. People who had cheered us now asked for refunds. A woman wrote, How could she do this to a good man? Another wrote, I always thought something was off. I read until my eyes blurred. Caleb sat in his room playing with blocks. He did not understand politics or contracts. He only knew his mother was sad. That night, a lawyer's envelope arrived. A crisp paper with a bold header. I opened it with fingers that could not stop shaking. Daniel's lawyer filed a legal notice. He demanded answers. He wrote that Daniel would sue for damages. The letter had sharp words: fraud, misrepresentation, illegal use of corporate identity. It asked for documents and a public retraction. My head filled with noise. Martha put a hand on my shoulder. "They are trying to scare you," she said. "They want you to back down." But the notice had another line that hit me like ice. Daniel had filed an emergency motion. He claimed I was an unfit parent and asked the court to examine my custody rights. He suggested I might be dangerous to Caleb because of unstable behavior. The paper set a court date in 10 days. My breath stopped. My son's small face flashed in my mind. I imagined him taken away. The world spun slowly. I called Anna, a lawyer friend of a friend, someone who had helped others with family law. She answered quickly. "Do not panic," she said. "This is a tactic. He is trying to scare you into silence. But we can fight this." "Will he win?" I asked. My voice broke. "Not if we act smart," she answered. "We file our own response. We gather proof, witnesses, bank statements, people who can say he used your information. We show the court the truth." Her calm steadied me. Action felt like armor. Fear was loud, but work was steady. That night, I could not sleep. Caleb fell asleep in my arms on the couch. His breath was small and even. He trusted the world. He believed grown-ups would not let him fall. I made a list. Witnesses to Daniel's words, photos, bank transfers. The old email where he asked me for papers. Martha helped. She found a receipt from a copy shop with a timestamp. It matched the night Daniel had visited a cafe with a man I barely knew, Victor, his business partner. Each small paper felt like proof. Each small detail built a ladder out of the pit. But Daniel had more than paper. He had the ability to change minds. He also had money to hire experts who could forge or find holes in papers. I had work, witnesses, and a son who had the purest truth in his heart. That was something no money could clean away. 2 days later, a new worry arrived. A neighbor called to tell me a black car had waited across the street for hours. Another neighbor said a man had taken a photo of Caleb at the park. Fear returned like a cold wind. I put a lock on the back gate. I checked windows at night. I changed Caleb's preschool drop-off routine. Maria, a friend from the neighborhood, offered to come with us. People showed support in small ways. Volunteers at my office gave time. But the weight remained. The court papers sat on the kitchen table like a threat. Daniel wanted to make me small in public. He wanted to force me into silence. He wanted to take my son's future away. I looked at Caleb sleeping, tiny hands curled, and I promised myself I would not let him be taken. I would file the papers. I would call witnesses. I would show the truth. I would fight. Just as I finished the list and felt a small spark of hope, the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find an envelope on the step. No name, no stamp. Inside was a single photo. It showed Caleb at the playground, holding my father's hand. Behind them, a shadowed figure watched. On the back, 3 words were written in thick black ink. "We're next." My hands went cold. The night felt very close. The storm was not over. The moment I saw those words, "We're next," my knees almost gave out. The paper trembled in my hands, the ink slightly smudged from the rain that had started again. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. I looked around the porch, my eyes darting to every corner, every car, every flicker of movement in the dark. The street was empty, except for the black sedan parked 2 houses away. Its headlights were off, but I could see the faint orange glow of a cigarette burning inside. My heart raced. Someone was watching us. I shut the door quickly and locked it. Caleb was still asleep on the couch, curled under his blanket, his tiny chest rising and falling peacefully. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't wake him. Not again. Not with more fear. I called Martha. She answered on the first ring. "Martha," I whispered, "they're outside my house." "What?" "Who?" "I don't know." "There's a car." And someone left a note. "We're next." Her voice went firm. "Listen to me. Don't panic. I'm coming over. Stay away from the windows." When she arrived 10 minutes later, her headlights swept across the street, and the black sedan was gone. Vanished. Only a faint trail of smoke hung in the air. Martha stormed inside. "Did you call the police?" she asked. "No, I don't even know what to say." "What if they think I'm just panicking?" She glared at me. "You are panicking, Nora, and you should be. But that doesn't mean you're wrong. We called Officer Brooks, the same officer who'd handled Daniel's initial complaint after the party incident." He listened quietly, then said, "I'll send someone to patrol your area tonight. But you should know, Daniel's legal team is claiming harassment too. They said you're following him. I almost dropped the phone. What? He sighed. It's common in messy cases. They mirror your actions to confuse the court. Just stay calm. Don't give them anything they can use. When I hung up, I felt the floor tilt beneath me. Daniel wasn't just fighting in court, he was twisting reality again. And now, someone in the shadows was helping him. The next morning, I woke early. The air was cold still, unnaturally quiet. When I stepped outside to check the mailbox, there was nothing new, but my gut told me the silence wasn't safety. It was warning. I spent the morning gathering everything Anna needed: bank records, signed contracts, old messages, proof of Daniel's lies. Martha helped scan and label each one. We had to be meticulous. One mistake could cost me everything, maybe even Caleb. When Anna arrived, she looked tired but composed. She spread the papers on the kitchen table and said, "We have enough to file a counter motion. The evidence is strong. But Nora, we need to talk about safety." I frowned. "What do you mean?" "Anonymous threats are never random," she said quietly. "This isn't just intimidation. It's psychological warfare. They want you to react, to lose composure before the hearing. So what do? You stay predictable, boring. You keep your schedule normal. Drop Caleb at school, go to work, talk to no one you don't trust. The more normal you act, the harder it is for them to control the story." It sounded simple in theory. In practice, it felt like walking a tightrope over a pit. That afternoon, I took Caleb to the park. He ran ahead with his small backpack, giggling as he chased pigeons. The sky was bright, the world normal, for once. I sat on a bench and tried to breathe. Every shadow still felt alive, but I smiled and waved whenever Caleb looked back at me. He needed to see that his mother was fine. He needed stability, even if I was falling apart inside. Then, a man sat down on the bench next to me. He was in his 50s, clean-shaven, dressed in a neat gray suit. "Beautiful day," he said softly. I nodded politely. "Yes, it is." He smiled faintly. "Your son's a brave little boy. He must take after you." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't told him my son's name. "Do I know you?" I asked carefully. He tilted his head. "No, but your fiancé does." I stood instantly. "Who are you?" He didn't flinch. He reached into his coat and handed me a small envelope. "From Daniel," he said. "He thought you might like to know what's coming." Before I could react, he walked away, slow, confident, as if he had all the time in the world. I tore open the envelope. Inside was a single photograph of my office building. A red circle was drawn around the sign, Hayes & Coer Designs, and below it, written in sharp ink, "How long do you think they'll trust you when they know everything?" I called Anna immediately. Her tone stayed calm, but I could hear her pacing on the other end. "This man," she said, "what did he look like?" "Older, gray suit. Said he worked for Daniel." "Good, that helps. We'll file a police report for intimidation and stalking." "But Nora, listen, he's escalating. This means he's running out of control. You're getting close to something he doesn't want seen." "What could that be?" "Maybe the reason he used your identity. Maybe a document or transaction that ties him to illegal accounts." Her words felt heavy. Could it really be that simple? Could I end this by finding proof of what he'd done? That night, I went through my old emails again. One stood out, from nearly a year earlier. It was a message Daniel had sent from his business account, asking me to sign what he called routine partnership documents for his new startup. I'd signed them digitally, not thinking twice. I clicked the attached link again and this time opened the fine print. There it was, small but clear. Primary signatory, Nora Hayes. Secondary, Daniel Cross. He had used my name as the legal owner of his company. That meant every shady deal, every illegal payment, every unreported asset, all of it looked like mine. My heart pounded. I had been his shield the entire time. I printed the document and called Anna again. She didn't answer, so I left a message. "Anna, I found it. The real proof. He used my name to hide everything. Please call me back." I hung up, then looked toward the window. Outside, the same black sedan was parked again, engine idling quietly. I closed the curtains, pulled Caleb close, and whispered, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here," but in truth, I knew nothing was okay. Not yet. Because now that I had found the proof, Daniel would stop pretending. When Anna finally called back, her voice was steady and direct. "Bring everything to my office now," she said. "We will file it with the district attorney. This is big, Nora. It can change everything. I felt a strange mix of relief and fear. Relief because the paper I had found, the contract that showed Daniel used my name as the primary signatory, was real proof. Fear because proof makes people move fast. People who hide things get desperate when the light comes close. Martha drove us to Anna's office. Caleb stayed with her grandparents. I needed to be on the move and clear-headed. The city felt loud and sharp as car horns and sirens passed by. I clutched the printed contract in my hand like a small shield. Anna tucked the papers into a folder with careful hands. "We will make 3 copies," she said. "One for the court, one for the DA, and one for safekeeping with a trusted journalist. Lena can hold that copy. We will not make this public until the court is ready." We walked through the plan. Anna would file a counter-motion to Daniel's request to investigate my fitness as a parent. She would include the contract, bank statements, the rental receipts Marcus left behind, and the locker evidence Brooks found. Officer Brooks agreed to work with us and promised to add the new documents to the police record. Lena called right then, her voice low and firm. "I will hold my copy in a secure account," she said. "If anything happens to you, I will publish everything. The truth will come out." Her words gave me courage. It felt like a net under a tightrope. At noon, Anna made the filing at the courthouse. The clerk stamped the papers and a record number flashed across my phone screen. "You did the right thing," Anna said quietly. She looked tired but fierce, like a woman who had fought many hard cases before. "Now we wait for the judge to set the hearing date. Until then, be careful. Keep your evidence safe." I left the courthouse with the folder tucked into my bag and my pulse slow but steady. The city felt different now. The proof was out of the shadows and on a desk with a stamp. Daniel could not erase that stamp with a phone call or a press release. He could try to fight it. He could try to scare me. But now others held the facts too. That night I slept a little easier. Martha stayed up to watch the house. I checked the locks at least 5 times. The black sedan had not come back since the man on the bench. I hoped that meant Daniel and his helpers were quiet for now. Hope felt fragile, like glass. The next morning I drove to the small office where Hayes & Co.'s had its meeting room. I keep records there and client files in a small safe. I told myself it was just a routine check. Anna told me to keep copies at multiple places. Lena had a copy, Anna had a copy, and Brooks had digital scans. But I liked having the originals nearby. Paper feels real. When I pushed open the office door, the smell hit me first. The smell of dust and something else, like metal. The lights were off, though they usually stayed on in the day. My stomach dropped. I flicked the switch. Nothing. My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Anna. "We need to talk. Can you come to my office now?" Brooks is on his way. I turned and saw the safe door open. The lock was broken. Files were gone. The small box with the original contract was empty. My proof, the paper that could show Daniel's lie, had vanished. My hands shook. I felt sick. I fumbled for a chair and sat down. The office looked ransacked but careful. Nothing else was missing. That scared me more. Whoever took the contract knew exactly what to get. I called Anna immediately. Her voice tightened. "Do not touch anything. Do not clean. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Brooks, too. We will treat it like a crime scene." When they arrived, Brooks walked slowly around the room. He crouched by the safe and swabbed the lock with a cloth. "Gloves," he said quietly, reading the dust like a map. They wore gloves. They were careful. "But we'll check cameras on the block." "Someone must have seen a car or a person," Anna said softly. "This is escalation. They are now destroying evidence. That tells me they are worried." She looked at me with a hard kindness. "Nora, we move faster now. I'll ask the judge for an emergency hearing. We need to put an order in place to seize anything related to Daniel and his company before they can hide it." Meanwhile, Lena arrived carrying a laptop. She had a copy of the original contract in her secure drive, the one we made before Anna filed. I wanted to cry with relief. Lena set the laptop on the table like a small shield. "We have a copy," she said, "but the originals are gone. They can say the digital files are fake without originals. This matters." Brooks left to check the block cameras while Anna called her colleague at the DA's office. I sat there, the air thick, and thought of Caleb. My heart beat fast with worry. If they could break into a small office, could they come to the house? Could they find him at preschool? The fear that had crept like shadow became a roar in my chest. 2 hours later, Brooks returned with bad news. The security camera on the street was pointed the wrong way. The one on the next block had footage, a tall figure in a dark coat moving quickly past the office at 3:12 a.m. The person wore a hat and gloves. The face was blurred, but the gait looked like the man who had given me the envelope in the park. The same confident walk. The same slow steps. Marcus Vale used to move like this, Brooke said, showing me a still image. But the office angle is bad. We might get a better read from other cameras. We'll check traffic cameras and any nearby shops. Anna's phone buzzed. She listened, then said, "The judge is willing to hear us tomorrow if we can show immediate danger. We should file for the emergency seizure now, but we need to be clean. No claims we planted anything, no panic. Just facts." I nodded, feeling numb. The proof I had found, the paper that showed Daniel used my name, had changed everything indeed. It had forced truth into the open. It had also forced Daniel's hand. Before I could think more, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number. It had just 2 words, "Stop now." Below the message was a picture. It was a still from a preschool security camera. Caleb walking with his grandparent to class, smiling. But in the corner of the picture, a black SUV sat across the street, engine running. My breath left me. I grabbed my bag. I ran to the car. My hands were so fast and shaking that I nearly dropped my keys. Outside, the street looked normal. People walked dogs. A bus hissed by. But in my chest, a drum beat hammered. As I turned the ignition, my phone rang. It was Officer Brooks. "Nora," he said, breathless. "There's a car across from the preschool. It's the same black SUV, stay where you are." "I'm calling it in." I looked at the rearview mirror. In the glass, I saw my own pale face and Caleb's toy frog in the back seat. I thought of the contract that had disappeared, of the men who wore gloves and moved like shadows, and of the boy who had stood on the stage and told the truth. The road ahead felt like a place I could fall. But I had no choice now. I had to go. The sound of my heartbeat was louder than the car engine. When Officer Brooks told me to stay where I was, every instinct screamed to do the opposite. Caleb was across town at his preschool, the one place I thought he was. Safe? But the picture on my phone, the one showing him walking into the building while a black SUV idled. Across the street, Mike burned into my mind. That SUV wasn't just watching. It was waiting. I gripped the steering wheel, whispering to myself, "Please, God, not my son." I didn't care what Brooks said. I drove. My hands trembled so hard I could barely keep the car steady. The city blurred around me. Red lights, pedestrians, noise. None of it mattered. When I pulled up to the preschool, the parking lot was crowded with parents and teachers. I scanned every car and every face, and there it was, parked across the street. Black SUV, windows tinted. Engine off, but heat waves shimmered above the hood, meaning it had been running not long ago. My breath caught. I parked fast, grabbed my phone, and dialed Brooks again. "It's here," I whispered. "The SUV, it's right across." Before I could finish, the door to the preschool opened. And Caleb came running out. He was smiling, bright and carefree, holding his little backpack and waving goodbye to his teacher. My heart broke with both love and fear. "Mommy!" he shouted. Behind him, his teacher waved. "He was waiting for you." Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw it. The SUV's driver's side door slowly opening. I ran. "Caleb, get in the car." "Now," he stopped, confused. "Mommy?" The driver stepped out. A man, tall, broad shoulders, dark baseball cap. I couldn't see his face. He froze when he saw me running. For a split second, the world stood still. Then, without a word, he turned, got back in the SUV, and sped off. The tires screamed against the asphalt as the car roared down the street, weaving through traffic until it disappeared. I held Caleb in my arms, shaking so hard I could barely stand. His small hands patted my cheeks. "Mommy, why are you crying?" I pressed my forehead against his. "Because I love you too much." Within minutes, 2 police cars arrived. Lights flashing, sirens silent. Officer Brooks stepped out, scanning the street. "They're gone," I said, my voice trembling. He nodded grimly. "We've got traffic cameras on this road. If they turn up again, we'll find them." I handed him my phone with the photo message. "They sent me this before they came." He looked at the image for a long time. Then he said quietly, "This wasn't random." "He's trying to scare you off the case." My voice broke. He's threatening my child. Brooks nodded slowly. I know, that's why he's desperate. But Nora, this means we're close to something he can't afford for us to find. Later that day at the station, they took my statement. Brooks had his team collect footage from the street cameras near the preschool. One frame caught the SUV's license plate. It was blurry, but partially legible. 9XF something. They sent it to the DMV for analysis. When I left the station, Anna called. She had spoken with the judge's clerk. We've got an emergency hearing tomorrow morning, she said. The judge wants both sides present. This is it, Nora. We're finally bringing his lies into the light. I should have felt relieved, but I couldn't shake the image of that SUV. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with Caleb sleeping beside me, watching the front window as rain fell in slow, heavy drops. Every car that passed made me flinch. Every flash of headlights felt like a warning. Martha called around midnight. I'm coming over, she said. You shouldn't be alone tonight. When she arrived, she brought hot tea and her usual quiet strength. She sat beside me for a long time without saying much. Then she said softly, You're doing everything right, you know. You're fighting for truth, and that scares people who live on lies. Her words should have comforted me, but they only reminded me how much more Daniel had to lose. If the court saw the truth, his company would collapse. His reputation would vanish, and people like him didn't fall quietly. The next morning, I wore a plain navy suit and tied my hair back tight. Anna met me at the courthouse steps. She looked focused, her arms full of files, her eyes alert. Ready? She asked. No, I said honestly. But I'm here. Inside, the courtroom was cold and still. Daniel sat at the far table with his lawyer, sharp suit, smug smile, and an air of control that made my stomach twist. He didn't look at me. He just leaned back in his chair, whispering something to his attorney, who smirked. When the judge entered, everyone rose. The hearing began. Anna stood first, laying out our evidence. The documents, the financial records, the emails proving Daniel used my name as his company's legal front. She spoke clearly, calmly, every word deliberate. Then Daniel's lawyer rose. He called the claims ridiculous. He said I was emotionally unstable, obsessive, and vindictive. He said I had created false documents to ruin a man who tried to help her. My heart pounded as his words filled the room. It was the same story again. Me, the liar. Him, the victim. But this time, Anna was ready. She stepped forward and said, Your Honor, may I introduce Exhibit 14, a verified timestamp of this document's digital signature. It proves Ms. Hayes' claim beyond dispute. She projected the document onto the screen. My name, primary signatory, glowed in black and white, followed by Daniel's name below it. Then she added softly, We also have the IP trace, registered to Hartman & Co., Daniel's firm. The courtroom fell silent. Daniel's smirk vanished. His lawyer's face turned pale. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Cross, do you deny that this contract was filed using your business account? Daniel hesitated. His jaw tightened. I need time to review this, he muttered. The judge nodded. You'll have your time. But for now, I'm granting temporary protection for Ms. Hayes and her son. No contact from you or your associates. A sound escaped my throat, half relief, half exhaustion. Daniel's glare met mine. There was no charm left. Only hate. When the hearing ended, Anna squeezed my hand. We did it, she said quietly. At least for now. Outside, the sky was gray but brightening, the kind of light that comes after a storm but before peace. I walked to the car where Caleb and Martha waited. Caleb ran to me and hugged my legs. Mommy, did you win? He asked. I smiled faintly. Not yet, baby. But we're getting there. As I buckled him into his seat, I noticed something under the windshield wiper. A folded note, half soaked from the drizzle. I opened it. It was written in the same sharp handwriting as before. You think a judge can stop me? Next time you won't get to him in time. My hands went cold. I looked up and saw, parked at the end of the block, the black SUV engine running. Lights off, watching us. The engine idled at the far end of the street like a heartbeat in the dark. Even from a distance, I could feel the presence behind those tinted windows. The black SUV had followed us before. But this time, it wasn't just watching. It was waiting. I could see its shape reflected in the glass of nearby stores. Sharp, still, patient. It reminded me of a predator before it strikes. Caleb was buckled in the back seat, humming softly to himself, playing with the small toy frog he always carried. He didn't notice my shaking hands or how hard I gripped the steering wheel. Martha's voice broke the silence. "Nora," she said softly, "you need to start driving. Don't wait for them to make the first move." I swallowed hard. "I don't want them to know where we live." "Then we don't go home," she said. "Drive anywhere, just keep moving." I pulled onto the main road, trying to stay calm. In the mirror, the SUV followed. Same distance, same slow, steady pace. Every turn I made, it made too. Left at the gas station, right past the grocery store. It was deliberate. Not a coincidence, not paranoia. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear the radio. I whispered, "Martha, call Officer Brooks. Tell him we're being followed." She dialed, her voice trembling. "Brooks, it's happening again." Black SUV, same plates. "We're on Ridgeway Avenue heading east." The line cut with static. She looked at me. "He heard enough. Just keep going." I turned sharply into an industrial area where warehouses lined the road and streetlights flickered weakly. Rain began to fall again, light, cold, tapping on the windshield like nervous fingers. The SUV stayed behind. Not close enough to be reckless. Not far enough to lose. They were trained. Then I saw flashing lights ahead, construction barriers blocking half the road. "No way forward. Turn back," Martha said urgently. I spun the wheel, tires screeching. The SUV accelerated. They were coming fast now. "Mommy!" Caleb cried from the back seat, clutching his frog. "What's happening?" "Hold on, baby," I whispered. "Mommy's here." I hit the gas and turned down a narrow side street, slick with rain and lined with dumpsters. The SUV followed, tires hissing on wet pavement. Then I saw headlights coming from the opposite direction. Another car. For a split second, the glare blinded me. Martha shouted, "Brake!" I slammed the pedal. The tires skidded. The SUV behind us swerved to avoid hitting us and crashed into a metal bin, the sound echoing like thunder. I didn't wait. I hit the accelerator again, tearing down the street toward a gas station at the end of the block. When we reached it, I stopped under the bright lights near the pumps. My hands trembled. The world spun, but I wasn't leaving the car now, not until I saw who was inside that SUV. It appeared again, limping from the alley, one headlight shattered, bumper hanging loose. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, tall, clean suit, dark gloves. Not the same one who had handed me the envelope at the park. Someone else, younger, meaner. He looked at me like he knew I couldn't run anymore. And maybe I couldn't. Then another car screeched into the lot, flashing red and blue lights cutting through the rain. Police. Brooks jumped out, hand on his gun. "Stay in the car, Nora," he shouted. The man froze for a moment. Then he bolted, running toward the opposite side of the lot. Brooks chased after him, his radio crackling. "Suspect fleeing east. Back up now." Martha grabbed my arm. "Lock the doors," I did. My pulse was racing so fast it hurt. Within seconds, more sirens filled the air. Another officer cornered the suspect behind the station. There was shouting, and then the sound of metal hitting concrete. It was over in less than a minute. Brooks returned to us, soaked but calm. "They got him," he said, breathing heavily. "He's not talking, but his ID says Leon Hartman." The name hit me like ice. "Wait, Hartman? As in Hartman and Co.?" Brooks nodded. "The same. He's on the payroll." "Your ex's company," Martha whispered. "They sent him after her?" Brooks didn't answer. He just looked at me, eyes grim. "They wanted to scare you off before tomorrow's hearing." I swallowed hard. "They almost did. But you didn't run," he said quietly. "You fought back. That's what's going to win this, Nora." They took Leon away in handcuffs. Brooks promised extra patrols outside my house and Caleb's school until the hearing was over. But even with the police lights fading, I didn't feel safe. That night, I sat by Caleb's bed, watching him sleep. He held his frog tight in his tiny hands, his hair sticking to his forehead. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful for the chaos that surrounded us. Martha stayed on the couch with a blanket, refusing to leave. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "everything changes. Either he falls or he destroys himself trying." I nodded. I just want it to end. The next morning came too fast. Anna called early, her voice firm. "We've confirmed the man who followed you is on Hartman & Co.'s payroll. We have a signed record of his security clearance. This connects directly to Daniel. It's over, Nora. We just need to present this." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. "This means he's done?" "This means," she said, "he's desperate. And desperation is dangerous. But yes, it's the final nail. I dressed simply. A plain gray blouse, black pants. I didn't want to look like a victim, just a woman telling the truth. When we reached the courthouse, the press was already waiting. Flashes, microphones, shouting questions. I ignored them and walked inside, holding my bag close. Brooks stood near the door. "Extra security's inside," he said quietly. "No surprises today." I nodded, but part of me still felt that tremor of fear. Because men like Daniel don't lose with silence. They break things when they fall. Inside the courtroom, Daniel sat at his table, jaw clenched. He looked different now, smaller somehow, though his suit was perfect as ever. Anna placed the file in front of the judge. "Your Honor, Exhibit B, proof that Mr. Cross's company hired private agents to intimidate my client and her son. This, combined with the forged contracts, shows deliberate fraud and harassment." Daniel's lawyer tried to object, but the judge cut him off. "Enough. I've seen the evidence. Mr. Cross, you've crossed more than one legal line here." Daniel's hands clenched on the table. "You can't prove—" The judge slammed the gavel. "Mr. Cross, this is no longer a matter of marriage or property. It's criminal." The room went silent. Daniel's lawyer slowly sat down, and for the first time, I saw fear in Daniel's eyes. Afterward, outside the courthouse, the air felt lighter. Martha hugged me tight. "You did it," she whispered. But before I could answer, Brooks approached, holding his phone. His face was pale. "What's wrong?" I asked. He showed me the screen, a photo sent to his private number. It showed the inside of a dark room, a man's office, walls covered in files and photos. And in the corner, Daniel's assistant, Natalie, was sitting with her head in her hands. The caption read, "If you want the full truth, come to her before she disappears." Brooks frowned. "This isn't from Daniel. Someone inside his company sent it. Looks like one of his own is ready to talk." I looked at him, my heart thudding. "This could finish it," I whispered. He nodded. "Or it could be a trap." I turned toward the car where Caleb waited with Martha. The wind carried a faint scent of rain again. I clenched my jaw. "Then we find out which one it is." The message on Brooks's phone felt like a key in a locked room. Someone inside Daniel's company wanted to talk. That could finish everything, or it could be a trap. Either way, I had to try. Anna arranged the meeting carefully. We chose a safe place, a small coffee shop near the courthouse, crowded and public. Lena agreed to sit 2 tables away with her recorder on, ready to capture every word. Brooks promised backup nearby, watching from a parked car. Martha came too, but she waited outside, in case the meeting went wrong. My hands trembled as I waited at the table. I held my coffee cup like a lifeline. The noise of the shop, spoons clinking, soft talk, the hiss of the espresso machine, felt oddly loud. I kept thinking of Caleb sleeping with his frog at home, trusting the world was safe. I wanted to make it safe for him. Natalie walked in quietly. She kept her head down like someone hiding from the sun. Her hair was in a tight bun. She wore a plain coat, no jewelry. She looked tired, older than her years. When she spotted me, she hesitated, then sat down across from me as if drawn by gravity. "Claire?" she said, voice small. I don't know how to start." "Thank you for coming," I said, trying to smile. "You don't have to say anything. Just tell the truth." Natalie's hands shook. "I can't stay at Hartman & Co. anymore," she said. "I saw things. I helped at first because I needed the job. I didn't know the whole plan, but then I found the boxes, lists, payments, photos." She swallowed. "When they asked me to copy contracts showing names that weren't real, I refused. After that, things went bad for me." Lena leaned forward slightly, dialing her recorder on low. "We'll record this for protection," she said quietly. "If you're afraid, we can keep your name out of the story until you're safe." Natalie shook her head. "No, I need people to know. I can't hide. I thought about leaving a long time ago, but they watch us. They know who we meet. They track phones," her voice broke. "Last night I found a folder, a list of people and accounts. Your name was on it more than once. I couldn't live with it. I made copies. I hid them." She pulled a small envelope from her bag and slid it across the table. My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside were photocopied pages, bank transfers, invoices, and emails. Daniel's name was on many of them. There were also notes in a cramped hand, names of shell companies and dates. One line made my breath stop, a transfer labeled Closing August with a number matching an account we had already flagged. "Where did you get these?" Anna asked, steady and calm. Natalie rubbed her fingers together. I downloaded them from the company server. I copied them to a flash drive. I couldn't take the originals. They would notice. But I hid copies. She looked at me with eyes full of apology. I'm sorry it took me so long. Lena's recorder clicked softly. Why now? She asked. Natalie's face hardened. Because last week they told me to handle a complaint quietly. Then I saw the folder with your name and the options. If you were blamed, they would move the charges faster. They would look clean. And if you kept fighting, they would make sure you failed. She swallowed. I couldn't be a part of that. Brooks's text came through my phone, a short line. We're in place, but keep calm. His presence felt like armor. Anna folded the papers and said, This is strong. We can use it in court. But we need the originals of everything. Digital copies are good, but we will want more. She looked at Natalie. Can you get us the originals? Is there a place you can access? Natalie's hands trembled. There is a night safe, an archiving room in the back of the building. The files are stamped and stored there. I can get in because I still have clearance to the employee entrance. But I will be risking everything. Why would you risk it? I asked, voice thin. Natalie's eyes filled. Because my sister lost her home when Hartman & Cohen fired her husband for exposing a safety problem. My niece cried in the dark. That should have never happened. I promised her I would help people like her. I can't keep helping the company hurt others. Anna nodded, thinking like a strategist. We will make a plan. You won't go alone. Brooks' team will be nearby. Lena will keep the recorder going. If we can get the originals and a secure backup, the DA can move faster. Natalie looked at Lena. If I get caught, what then? She whispered. Lena reached across the table and took her hand. Then we tell the world. We publish everything we have. But first, you get the files. That night, the plan went into motion. Martha watched our apartment. Caleb slept at his grandparents'. Natalie used her badge to slip into the building. Quiet steps, heart beating fast. She moved through dim corridors, past meeting rooms where lights burned late, past a portrait of Daniel looking proud on the wall. Her hands were steady, but I knew fear sat heavy on her shoulders. Inside the archive room, the air smelled like old paper and dust. She found the stamped folders with dates and names, all labeled in neat print. Her fingers trembled as she slipped copies into a secure flash drive and then into her bag. She had a small camera to take photos too, for backup. When she left, the night was colder than usual. She walked into the shadow of the building where a man waited in the darkness. Someone had seen her leave, or the cameras noticed. She froze, then ran. Brooks' men grabbed the suspect before he could reach the car, but not before he raised his hand and tried to grab her. She pushed away, heart racing. She sprinted to the car where Anna waited with Lena. They drove off under the dim streetlights, breath heavy, safe for the moment. Landing back at Anna's office, they handed me the drive. I held that small piece of plastic like it was a hand from the dark. Inside were photos, emails, and ledgers. The originals Natalie had copied. I opened a folder and found one document that changed everything. A signed page where Daniel had instructed the creation of a shell company in my name. The signature was his, clear and bold. Tears blurred my vision. For months, he'd called me a liar. For months, he'd turned people against me. Now the paper showed the truth. The man who had betrayed me had done it with his own hand. Lena looked at me, voice low. We give this to the DA first. But if anything happens to you, I publish. Anna closed her eyes for a moment, then said firmly, We go to court tomorrow and we do not stop. As we walked out, Brooks whispered, You're brave, Nora. So is she. But be careful. They'll try one last time. Outside, the city lights hummed. The danger still breathed around us. But for the first time in months, the path forward felt clear. The next morning, sunlight poured through my kitchen window for the first time in weeks. But it didn't bring peace, it brought pressure. Because today, everything would end. Either Daniel's lies would finally collapse, or he'd take everything down with him. Anna's words from the night before echoed in my head. We go to court tomorrow and we do not stop. I dressed in silence. Martha made coffee, her face pale with worry. Brooks had already called to say he'd meet us at the courthouse with the official copy of Natalie's evidence. Lena would be there too. She'd written the final draft of her article but promised not to publish until after the verdict. The storm was finally about to break. As we drove, I watched the city roll by. People walking, buses passing, laughter spilling out of cafes. The world was moving on, unaware that inside one courtroom, a woman's life and reputation hung by a thread. At a red light, Caleb looked up from the back seat. "Mommy," he said softly, "are the bad people gone now?" I turned, smiling faintly. "Almost, sweetheart," he nodded, holding his toy frog close. "Then I'll tell him he can dance again." Even in that chaos, he still believed in hope. And somehow that belief kept me from falling apart. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters again. Microphones flashed like camera shutters. "Ms. Hayes, did you forge the documents? Is it true you and Daniel Cross used the same account? Are you afraid for your life?" I didn't answer. I just kept walking, my hand tight around Anna's arm. She whispered, "Don't speak. Not one word until we're inside." Once through the doors, Brooks met us, carrying a sealed folder marked Confidential Evidence Submission. He looked serious. "We verified the files Natalie gave us. They're real, untouched. The timestamps, signatures, metadata, all authentic. The DA's team cross-checked everything at dawn." Anna exhaled slowly. "That's it then. That's the nail in his coffin." But Brooks didn't smile. "There's something else," he said quietly. "Daniel's lawyers filed a motion late last night. They're claiming the documents were stolen, not leaked, and they're asking the judge to throw them out." My heart sank. "He's still fighting?" Brooks nodded. "He won't stop. Men like him never stop. Not until someone makes them." Inside the courtroom, Daniel sat at his table, composed but coiled, like a snake waiting to strike. His lawyer, the same smirking man who'd once called me unstable, leaned in, whispering something that made Daniel chuckle. Anna noticed and said quietly, "Let him laugh now." "He won't at the end." The judge entered and everyone stood. The air was thick with tension. "Proceed," the judge said. Daniel's lawyer went first. "Your Honor," he began, "these documents are inadmissible. They were obtained illegally through unauthorized access to private servers. Furthermore, we have reason to believe they've been altered." He looked right at me. His smile was polite, almost kind, but the malice behind it was sharp. He wanted me to flinch. I didn't. Anna stood next. "Your Honor," she said, "we have verified the files through law enforcement. They were not stolen. They were retrieved by an employee who came forward voluntarily to expose a crime. These records show deliberate fraud, money laundering, and identity misuse, all executed under the name of my client, Ms. Hayes, without her knowledge or consent." She placed the folder on the evidence table. "This is not theft. It's truth." The judge examined the papers in silence for a long time. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Cross, do you deny authoring these signatures?" Daniel hesitated. I can't confirm without reviewing my files." Anna stepped forward. "Then let's review this email, Your Honor. Sent from Mr. Cross's official business account. The one directing Ms. Cruz to finalize the signatory transfer to Hayes for discretion purposes." The courtroom buzzed. Daniel's lawyer stood sputtering. "That could have been written by anyone." Anna smiled coolly. "Then why does it contain a timestamp and his verified digital signature?" Daniel's hands gripped the table. He looked ready to explode. The judge's voice cut through the murmurs. "This court finds that the evidence shows a clear pattern of financial misconduct and personal harassment. Mr. Cross, your repeated actions to defame and intimidate Ms. Hayes are not only unethical but criminal in nature." She turned toward me. "Ms. Hayes, the court clears you of all accusations. A restraining order will remain in place for your and your son's safety. All assets tied to Mr. Cross's fraudulent accounts will be frozen pending further investigation." My breath caught. The courtroom seemed to blur. It was over. After months of fear, loss, and humiliation, it was finally over. Reporters swarmed outside, but I barely heard them. Anna hugged me tight. "It's done, Nora. You did it." Brooks smiled for the first time. "He's finished. The DA's moving in now." Martha ran to us, tears streaming down her face. "You're free," she whispered. "You're really free." And Caleb, my sweet little boy, climbed into my arms, smiling wide. "Did the frog dance, Mommy?" I laughed through my tears. "Oh yes, baby." He's dancing. We were halfway to the car when Brooks's phone buzzed. He frowned, then looked up sharply. "Wait, stay here. What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer. He stepped aside, listening, his jaw tightening. Then he turned to me, face grim. "Daniel's missing." The words hit like a slap. "What do you mean missing?" "His lawyer said he left during recess." Security footage shows him walking out a side exit before the verdict. His car's gone. His phone's off. I felt the world tilt again.
He ran?
Brooks nodded. The DA is issuing a warrant now. But if he's gone, we don't know where. That night I couldn't sleep. Even Victory didn't feel safe. Daniel was somewhere out there, angry, desperate, cornered. And a man with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous kind. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message. No name, no number. You took everything from me. Let's see how well you protect what's left. Attached was a photo, taken through a window. It showed Caleb's room, his frog toy on the nightstand, and a man's shadow reflected on the glass. I dropped the phone, every breath leaving my lungs, because the last lie wasn't over. It had just come home. The message with the photo had frozen me in place. Someone had a camera pointed at my house. Someone had taken a picture of Caleb's room, the frog on his nightstand. The shadow in the window, I felt sick. I felt hollow. The victory from the courtroom dissolved into fear. Daniel was missing. He was dangerous. And now he had found a way to tell me he could reach inside my home. I grabbed my phone and called Brooks. His voice was calm but tight. "I'm coming over," he said. "Lock every door. Do not go near the windows. Stay with Caleb and don't make any noise." I moved like a machine. Martha put Caleb in his pajamas and wrapped him in a blanket without asking questions. I turned off lights. I closed curtains. My hands shook so badly I dropped a mug. Martha picked it up and told me to breathe. I tried. Brooks arrived in less than 10 minutes, 2 patrol cars behind him. He checked the doors and windows quickly. "We'll sit in the car across the street," he said. "If anyone comes, call me. We'll move in." He gave me his radio and his word. He said the department had extra patrols tonight after the judge's decision. I should have felt safer. I didn't. I felt watched. Caleb slept in my room that night. He wanted to be close to me. I let him. He curled up near my side, the small toy frog tucked under his arm. Every time he breathed, my heart eased a little. He had no idea how close the danger was. He believed the world was still a warm place where his mother kept him safe. At 2:30 a.m., I woke to a noise. A soft scrape at the back door, like a shoe on wood. I froze. Martha's breathing in the living room stopped. The clock ticked loud. For a moment, I thought it was my imagination, the fear making sounds real. Then the scrape came again, louder. Someone tried the back door handle. My hands crumpled the blanket. I crawled off the bed and moved toward the hallway on my stomach, silent as a shadow. I reached the phone and whispered into it. "Brooks, it's Nora. They're at the back door." There was a static breath on the line. "Hold, don't move. I'm calling backup. Stay low. Stay quiet." Martha pressed the phone against my face. "They're trying to get in," she whispered, eyes wide. "What do we do?" I had no answer. All I could do was watch the hallway light and listen. The handle jiggled. A quiet voice hissed through the door. "Nora, open up." "This is your last warning." It was Daniel. His voice was low and dangerous. My stomach dropped deeper than I thought possible. He had found us. He had come home. The back door gave a small sound like paper ripping. The lock clicked. Heavy footsteps padded across the kitchen floor. I held my breath so long my lungs burned. I wanted to run. I wanted to grab Caleb and leave. But Anna's voice had told me to be calm. Brooks had told me to wait. I couldn't put my son in more danger by rushing out into a trap. There was a soft creak from the living room, a foot on the stair. Daniel was moving through my house. He moved like he owned it, because for a long time he had owned the parts of my life he wanted. Now he walked like a man who planned to take the rest. He passed the hallway where I hid. He stopped just outside my door. My hand was on the doorknob of the bedroom, but I didn't open it. I watched his silhouette in the faint streetlight that came through the curtains. He lifted a phone and looked at it. The screen glowed on his face. He whispered, half to himself and half to the phone. "You see?" I told them. "I can reach them." His shadow stretched longer across the floor. He moved slowly to the crib where Caleb had slept before. He looked at the small frog on the nightstand and smiled, a cold, small smile. Then he stepped away and walked toward the living room. A window in the front room opened with a soft click. I heard another set of footsteps. He had at least one helper. The house was not a safe island. I felt like a small boat in a storm with rips in the hull. Then suddenly the lights outside the house flared. Headlights and blue and red strobes painted the curtains. Brooks' team moved like a single machine. They burst through the back door with radios and shouts. Daniel froze, hand on the banister. His eyes were wide, shocked. For a second I thought he would run, but he didn't. He lowered his head like a man admitting defeat for a moment. Then he looked up at me. He stood in the doorway of the living room, soaked from the rain that had tracked in, and he shouted, "You think you can ruin me and get away with it? You think winning in court makes this over?" Officer Brooks moved toward him. "Daniel Cross, you are under arrest for trespass and intimidation." "Put your hands where we can see them," Daniel laughed, a harsh sound. "You think you can stop this with handcuffs? You didn't see the accounts. You didn't see the contracts. You never knew what I could do." He stepped forward and reached toward the phone in his pocket. Brooks warned him. "Slowly. Don't reach." At that moment, a second movement answered from the hall. A figure stepped out from an open door in the back. A woman with a pale face and a wet coat. It was Natalie. She had followed Daniel, or he had brought her. I couldn't tell which. Her eyes darted between him and Brooks. Natalie's hands were lifted high. She looked at me with a pleading face I could not read. "Nora," she said, voice shaking, "he made them keep me quiet. He threatened me if I told the truth." Her words were small, but they started a noise in the room like a small wave hitting a stone. Brooks took a step toward her. Daniel barked at Natalie like an angry animal. "You promised," he lunged forward. Brooks moved faster. The two men hit and the room erupted in a tangle of arms, shouting and furniture scraping. I heard plastic break. I heard a crash from the kitchen as someone slammed against a table. Caleb cried out, a small, terrified sound. My body moved before I thought. I ran out into the living room and scooped Caleb up. He clung to me, hot and trembling. I wrapped my arms around him as if I could keep him safe from everything in the world. Police forced Daniel down to the floor. Handcuffs clicked. He cursed and spat words I could not make out. For a moment, I thought it was over. The men who had shadowed my life were held on my floor, breathing hard, cuffed, angry. Then Brooks' radio crackled. We found an open car 2 blocks away. Plate matches a registered vehicle with a tracking device. The device was disabled 5 minutes ago, but the GPS shows movement east toward the river. Brooks looked up at me. He has people out there. This could be a distraction. We need to check on every exit. Full sweep, my heart said to breathe. My head said the danger was not finished. Daniel's face was furious but broken, a man who thought everything could be rebuilt with threats. He stared at me and whispered, "This isn't the end, Nora." I held Caleb close. He snuffled against my neck and whispered, "Mommy, I'm scared." I pressed my lips to his hair and said, the truth like a promise. "I know, baby. I know, but I'm here. I won't let them take you." Outside, boots ran across the porch and voices barked orders. The house felt alive, full of noise and movement. For the first time in months, I had men at my door who would not leave until it was safe. Yet when I looked at Daniel's face, I saw something worse than anger. I saw a quiet that was planned. Men like him do not disappear because of cuffs. They plan new moves even from a cell. As officers led Daniel out, he looked directly at me one last time. His lips formed a word I did not hear. But in his eyes, I saw the promise that had started it all. That he would return this pain. I closed my eyes and breathed. Brooks put a hand on my shoulder. "We'll keep you safe." I wanted to believe him. I wanted, more than anything, to sleep without fear. But the night had already taught me that true safety is earned, not given. The sun rose behind gray clouds, turning the city pale and cold. It should have been a new beginning, but my house still smelled like fear, rainwater, sweat, and the faint metallic scent of broken locks. Police tape stretched across the back door. Officers moved quietly through the rooms, collecting prints and evidence. Martha made tea for everyone, her hands steady in a way mine weren't. Caleb sat on the couch, wrapped in his favorite blanket, holding his little paper frog. He was calm now. Children have a way of recovering faster than adults. But he kept looking toward the window, asking if the bad man was gone for good. I didn't know what to tell him. So I said the only thing I could. Mommy will never let him come back. Officer Brooks stood near the front door, writing notes. He looked exhausted but firm. "Daniel's been booked," he said. "He's facing multiple charges, breaking and entering, intimidation, and violating a court order. But his lawyer is already moving for bail." My stomach twisted. "They can let him out again?" Brooks sighed. "Possibly. The system isn't perfect. But he's on every watch list now. We'll have patrol cars outside your home until the hearing. Until the hearing, I repeated quietly, staring at the floor. Then what? He hesitated. Then we trust the court to do what's right. I knew he meant well, but I'd stopped trusting the system a long time ago. Later that morning, Anna and Lena came over. Anna looked calm, focused, her briefcase already full of new paperwork. Lena carried her camera bag and her recorder. We need to make this public, Lena said. No more hiding. No more quiet fights in dark rooms. The people who enabled Daniel, his company, his partners, they need to be named. Anna frowned. Careful, Lena. If we move too fast, it could hurt the case. Lena didn't back down. If we don't move now, they'll rewrite the story again. They'll paint her as the unstable woman who overreacted. They'll say he was under pressure. Her words were harsh, but true. Men like Daniel always had a way of rewriting stories. And this time I wasn't going to let him. Do it, I said quietly. Tell everything, Lena nodded once. Then I'll need your statement on camera. We recorded it in the living room. Just me sitting by the window with pale morning light on my face. No makeup, no fancy clothes. No script. I told the story, from the night of the engagement party, to the lies, the contracts, the humiliation, the threats. I didn't cry this time. My voice was low, steady, tired, the kind of tired that comes from too much pain and not enough sleep. When I finished, Lena turned off the camera and sat beside me. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she whispered, "You're stronger than you know." I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, rebuilt, and cracked again, like glass that somehow refused to shatter completely. That afternoon, Caleb's preschool sent a message asking when he'd return. For a moment, I thought about saying never, but fear couldn't raise a child, so I walked him there myself, holding his hand the whole way. He wore a bright yellow raincoat and jumped in every puddle he saw. When we reached the gate, he looked up and said, "Mommy, the frog likes the rain." "That means it's okay now," I smiled through tears. "Yes, baby. It's okay now." And for the first time in months, I almost believed it. When I got home, Anna was waiting with news. "The DA has expanded the case," she said. "With Natalie's testimony, they can charge Daniel with fraud, extortion, and evidence tampering. It's not just your case anymore. It's criminal." I nodded slowly. "Will Natalie be safe?" "She's in protective custody," Anna said. "Brooks arranged it himself." "She's brave, Nora. She risked everything." Martha joined us, carrying tea. "You all did. None of this would have happened if you hadn't stood up." I smiled faintly. I didn't stand up alone. The next few days passed in a blur. Lena's story went live, headline bold and simple. He tried to destroy her. She exposed him instead. The article went viral within hours. People shared it across every platform. Strangers sent messages, some with kindness, some with anger, but the tide had changed. The world finally saw Daniel for who he was. Sponsors cut ties. His company collapsed. Hartman & Co. was suspended from bidding on any government contracts. And yet, through all that noise, I felt strangely quiet inside. Winning didn't feel like triumph. It felt like survival. One evening, while Caleb colored frogs on the kitchen floor, Brooks stopped by. He looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from too many cases and not enough happy endings. He handed me a folder. "What's this?" I asked. "Final case file," he said. "Daniel's been denied bail. He's officially being held until trial. He won't come near you again." For a second, I couldn't speak. Then I whispered, "Thank you." Brooks smiled faintly. "Don't thank me. You saved yourself. We just helped you finish what you started." He paused at the door and added, "Take your son somewhere quiet for a while. Breathe again. You've earned that much." That night, when Caleb was asleep, I walked out to the porch. The air was cool and still. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to stand in the dark. I looked up at the sky, clouds shifting gently, stars peeking through, and I thought about everything we'd survived. Daniel's voice still echoed in my memory, but it no longer had power. His threats were gone, his control broken, but victory had a price. It cost me my peace. My career, my trust in people, but it gave me something better. A lesson I could teach my son. That truth, no matter how dangerous, is always worth fighting for. I whispered to the night, "You didn't win, Daniel." "I did, because I'm still here. Inside, I heard Caleb stir. He called softly, "Mommy?" I went to his room, sat on the edge of his bed, and brushed his hair from his forehead. He blinked up at me sleepily. "Are we safe now?" he asked. I smiled, tears in my eyes. "Yes, my love. We're safe now." He grinned and held up his little frog. "Then he's gonna dance again." I laughed, and a small, quiet laugh that felt like sunrise after a storm. And for the first time since that terrible night at the engagement party, I let myself believe it. We were safe. We were free. And life, despite everything, was still worth living. The months after the trial felt like a slow healing. The noise from the case quieted. The headlines stopped chasing me. Daniel was behind bars, and life returned to a gentle, ordinary rhythm. But ordinary felt different now, deeper and more meaningful. I started small. I had always wanted to help other people like me. People who lost their way when someone they trusted used their life to hide crimes. After what happened, many strangers messaged me. Some sent thanks. Some sent stories. Some asked for help. The idea came from a simple place, a child's drawing of a house and a frog. Caleb had colored it and written, "A home for brave people." I laughed, then cried. His words lit something inside me. If one small boy's drawing could carry hope, maybe I could turn that hope into action. So we opened a small center above the bakery where I had first come for coffee and quiet. It was not fancy. 2 rooms, fresh paint, a few tables, and a bookshelf. We called it the Lily and Frog Center. Lilies for the flowers Caleb gave me the night of the engagement, and a frog for the little paper toy that had become our symbol. The sign was hand-painted. The first day we opened, Martha hung it with shaky hands and a proud smile. We offered simple things at first: legal advice, a quiet place to talk, help filling forms, and a list of trusted counselors. Anna volunteered a few hours each week to meet clients who needed legal direction. Lena helped write articles and taught free media classes so survivors could tell their stories safely. Brooks came by sometimes to run safety workshops. Even Natalie, still fragile from her time in protection, returned to help with administrative work when she felt strong enough. People came slowly at first, then more quickly. A single mother with a bruised arm came and left with a new plan to move and find work. A father who had lost custody because of lies sat in our chair and cried for the first time in months. A teen who had been scared of the police finally learned how to call for help without fear. Each person left a small mark on me. Each story braided into ours. Every new face made the center more real. I started to sleep deeper at night. I still checked the locks, still glanced at my phone when it buzzed, but fear no longer ran my days. Caleb loved the center. He called it our brave house. He would sit at the children's table and make paper frogs for anyone who looked sad. He liked to say, "This makes them brave." People smiled when he did this. He reminded me that courage can be small and simple and still change lives. As the center grew, so did the list of needs. We needed chairs, computers, a printer, and small money to buy bus passes for people who had to attend court. Volunteers helped with everything. Local businesses donated coffee and snacks. It felt like a community building itself around the idea that someone could be saved from the worst of life and still give back. Lena wrote a short piece about our first year. It was gentle and honest. Not the loud kind of story that goes viral, but the kind that made people call and say, "How can I help?" Donations came in small amounts at first, $20 here, $50 there. Then one day an email landed in my inbox that made my breath catch. The subject line read, "A gift to help the Lily and Frog Center grow." The sender used no name, an anonymous email with a bank transfer confirmation attached. The amount was large, very large, enough to pay rent for years and hire a part-time counselor and a paralegal, enough to make the center a real safe place for many more people. At first, I felt relief wash over me like warm water. For the first time, we could plan long-term. I imagined a new room for kids, a small classroom, a phone line with staff who answered at all hours. We could help more people, change more lives. But then Anna's email came. She had seen the transfer and checked the source. Her message was short. "We need to be careful. Follow the money. Check the source. No public announcement until we know." Her caution sat heavy in my stomach. We traced the donation through a bank. The money came from a shell account, the kind used by people who do not want their names known. It had the feel of a gift, but also the smell of hidden things. Given what we had been through, I could not say yes without asking questions. We called Brooks and Lena into the small office that afternoon. Brooks sat in the chair with his gloves still on from making rounds. Lena pulled up the transfer on her laptop, her fingers moving fast. Could it be a well-meaning donor who values privacy? She asked. Yes, but money with no name can cause trouble. The people who hurt you once used hidden accounts to move money. Brooks nodded. We'll trace it as far as we can. If it's clean, accept it. If it's not, be ready to refuse. You don't want the center to be tied to someone with a bad plan. His voice was kind but firm. I felt torn. The money meant we could hire help, reach more people, and secure our future. The money could also sneak in control and strings, the very thing Daniel had used to hide his crimes. I thought of how my name had been used for someone else's greed. The idea of another hidden hand reaching toward us made me shiver. We decided to slow down. Lena and Anna agreed to trace the source thoroughly. Brooks promised to watch for any link to Hartman and Coder or any of Daniel's former associates. In the meantime, we locked the transfer in a temporary account that could not be touched until we were sure. Word about the donation leaked to the press. A reporter called and asked for a comment. I told them the truth. We received a generous offer. We are grateful, but we must make sure that the gift has no strings. It sounded diplomatic. It also bought us time. The next morning, a man in a suit appeared at the center. He asked to see me. He handed a shiny card and said his name was Mr. Gray from an investment group who wanted to help charities. He was polite, smiling, the kind of man who knew how to appear harmless. Something about him made the hairs on my arm lift. He asked questions about our donors, our plans, and how quickly we wanted to grow. He spoke of efficiencies and partnerships and long-term sustainability, words that sounded good but hid cost. I felt the old pattern prick at my mind. Offers that seemed kind, then demanded control. I thanked him politely and asked him to put his offer in writing. He left with a smile. I watched him go and felt the old fear whisper. Are we trading one danger for safe money? That night, Caleb folded a new paper frog and handed it to me. For the center, he said, so they can be brave. I hugged him and held the small paper tight. The frog was small, but the idea behind it was big. It reminded me why we had started this work. Outside, the city lights blinked, and the rain began again. The donation sat in our bank account, untouched. Anna's warning circled like a small, steady bird in the back of my mind. Follow the money. Be careful. We had already learned that truth is worth fighting for. Now I knew we had to fight for the center too, to keep it clean, honest and safe for the people who needed it most. In the quiet of the night, I whispered a promise to the frog in my hand and to the child sleeping in the next room. We will protect this place. We will not let the past return. But as I fell asleep, a small thought nagged at me. Whoever had sent the money had chosen to remain anonymous. Why? And what price might be waiting if we accepted it without knowing the full story? The rain kept falling. The frog sat on my desk like a small, brave sentinel. Tomorrow we would learn whether this gift was a blessing or a new kind of danger. The next morning started quietly, too quietly. The world outside the Lily and Frog Center was calm, the air cool and bright after a night of rain. Inside, sunlight spilled through the windows, reflecting off freshly painted walls. It should have felt peaceful, but peace can be deceptive. Because beneath the calm, something always stirs. Anna called at 8 a.m. sharp. Her voice was firm, controlled. The kind of tone she used when she had bad news but didn't want to scare me. Nora, she said. I found something. My heart sank before she even explained. The donation hadn't come from a normal business account. It had passed through 3 different banks, hidden under small charity transfers. But when Anna traced the last routing number, she found a familiar name buried in the records. Hartman Holdings. I went cold. Anna, yes, she said quietly. It's connected to the same network Daniel used before. The shell companies may have been dissolved, but someone revived one of them. My voice cracked. But Daniel's in prison. He is, she replied. But his reach isn't. People like him plan years ahead. They leave seeds in the soil. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The sound of cars outside and Caleb humming in the next room felt too normal for what I'd just heard. So this money, I said slowly. It's not a donation, Anna finished. It's a test. I met with Lena and Brooks at the center that afternoon. Lena printed the bank trail, spreading the papers across the table. Each line, each transaction told the same story. Quiet, careful movement designed to look generous while hiding rot underneath. Brooks crossed his arms, eyes hard. They're checking if you'll bite. If you accept it, they'll own you. And when the next scandal hits, your center will burn with it. Who would even do this now? I asked. Daniel's gone. His company's gone, Brooks shook his head. Maybe one of his partners. Or someone who still thinks he'll come back. Lena leaned forward. You have to reject it publicly. Not quietly, publicly. If you try to handle this behind closed doors, they'll twist it. You'll look guilty. The idea terrified me. The center had finally started to feel like something good, something clean. Going public meant risking everything again, but I also knew she was right. The next morning, I called a press meeting. It wasn't grand, just a small group of reporters, a few local channels, and a dozen supporters who had stood with me since the beginning. I stood on the small stage we'd built for workshops. No makeup, just a simple white blouse and jeans. Behind me, the banner read, "The Lily and Frog Center. For survivors. By survivors." My heart pounded so hard I thought it would break through my chest. I took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. A few weeks ago, our center received a large donation, a gift that could have changed everything for us. But after tracing its source, we learned that the money was not clean. It came from a company tied to the people who once tried to destroy me. I paused, scanning the crowd. I built this place on truth. We will not be bought. We will not be owned. We return that money today. The room erupted in applause. Not wild or loud, but steady, supportive, sincere. And in that moment, I felt something shift. Not just inside me, but in the air around us. For once, I was not reacting to fear. I was choosing. Later that evening, when everyone had gone, a black envelope was slipped under the center's front door. No name, no address. Just that same familiar handwriting, thin, sharp, deliberate. I froze. Lena and Brooks were still inside, going over media coverage. I picked up the envelope with trembling fingers and tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It said, "You should have taken it." He's not done. Brooks looked over my shoulder. He cursed softly. We're not dealing with a company now. This is personal, Lena frowned. He, Daniel? Brooks nodded grimly. Or whoever's still working for him. There are always people who worship power, even when it's locked behind bars. That night, fear returned. Not sharp like before, but heavy and dull, pressing against my chest. I couldn't let it win again. I checked the locks twice, then sat by the window while Caleb slept in his room down the hall. The street was quiet, but quiet no longer comforted me. Somewhere out there, someone was still watching, still trying to make me fall. But this time, I wasn't the same woman I'd been months ago. I wasn't the one who hid behind locked doors and cried in silence. I had people now. I had proof, strength, and a voice. I whispered to the dark, "You don't scare me anymore." The following week, Anna met with the district attorney. They discovered something new. Daniel had been transferring small sums to outside accounts from inside prison. At first, they thought it was a glitch. Then they found his lawyer's signature approving business maintenance fees. Anna's voice shook with restrained anger. He's running a shadow operation from behind bars. He's moving money, laundering it through old contacts. That's how the donation reached you. Brooks clenched his fists. Then he's not just breaking the law. He's mocking the system. I sat in silence, numb. So even in prison, he's still reaching me. Anna's gaze softened. Yes, but this time, we're ready. Within days, the DA's office launched an internal investigation. They froze the suspicious accounts. They revoked Daniel's privileges and moved him into isolation. Lena wrote an update for the paper, exposing the illegal activity. Her headline read, "Even behind bars, he tried again, and she stopped him twice." That line stayed with me. It wasn't pride I felt. It was something quieter, endurance. When I returned to the center, a small group of women waited near the door. They weren't reporters or donors, just survivors. One of them, a woman in her 50s, stepped forward. "You don't know me," she said softly, "but I watched your story. I kept hiding because I thought men like him always win. Today, I saw you on TV. You said no to money that came from the same kind of man who broke me. And I realized maybe we can all start over." I hugged her, feeling tears sting my eyes. "No one should have to hide again," I whispered. And that was when I understood something I hadn't before. The center wasn't about rebuilding my life anymore. It was about helping others reclaim theirs. That evening, Caleb handed me another paper frog, this one colored gold. "For luck," he said, smiling. I set it on my desk beside the black envelope, two symbols side by side. One born of love, the other of hate. But the frog gleamed brighter under the lamp. The past would always try to find me. But I had learned something precious. You can't erase darkness. But you can outshine it, and from that day forward I promised myself, and every soul who walked through our doors, that the Lily and Frog Center would never be for sale. Not for money. Not for power. Not for fear. Months of quiet felt like a gift. I let myself believe the nightmare had ended. The trial was over. Daniel was behind bars. The center was growing. People came for help. Life began to feel ordinary again, but darkness had a way of returning at the edges, slow and patient. And when it came back, it did so with new hands and the same old handwriting. If you search for stories like mine, emotional true story, mother and son, survival after betrayal, you will find many endings. Mine was supposed to be one of them. I wanted an ending that said, she survived, she rebuilt, she healed. But healing is not a straight line. It curls, loops, and sometimes brings shadows back to the door. It started with a letter. No stamp, no name. Just a single sheet folded neatly and slipped under the center's front door. Lena opened it while we were in the workshop. People were setting up chairs for a free counseling session. Children were in the corner folding paper frogs. The room smelled of coffee and glue. Lena read the note aloud because we needed it in the open. Her voice was steady but small. The paper said, "You were brave to refuse the gift. But savings and rules do not stop debts. He still owns the debts you owe. You pay or he collects." Below those words was a signature, the same tight, angry script I had seen on the night of the engagement party. It looked like Daniel's handwriting. But Daniel could not write to me now. He was locked away. My stomach dropped. The room went quiet. The volunteers looked at one another. Some faces went pale. The children continued to fold frogs, unaware that one small paper could hold so much fear. Brooks came immediately when I called. He stood in the doorway and read the note slowly. His face was the hard line of a man who had seen too many threats. "This is deliberate," he said. "Someone is trying to copy Daniel's style to scare you. Or someone wants you to think Daniel is still in charge." "Who would do that?" Martha whispered. "He's in prison." Brooks rubbed his jaw. "People who profit from fear do not need him in person. They need the idea of him. If I were to guess, I'd say it's someone who still owns a piece of his old world. Someone we have seen before." He stopped and looked at me. "Remember Mr. Gray?" My heart tightened. Mr. Gray, the polite man with the investment card who had visited the center months ago, offering quiet help. He had smiled like someone who knew exactly what he wanted. The memory of him made my skin prickle. We tightened security at the center. New cameras. New locks. Lena posted the story online with a careful note. "We refuse to be bought. We refuse to be scared." The story reached many people who had followed our journey. Messages poured in, some with support, others with warnings. One anonymous commenter wrote, "He taught many people how to hide. You only cut one route." A week later, we found paint on the front wall. Red graffiti, messy and fast. "Pay." The message looked like a fist had thrown paint at the building. Someone had also broken the light over the door. The small joy of our hand-painted sign was smeared with anger. A volunteer found a note in the volunteer mailbox. It said, "You chose wrong." That same night, a vendor who delivered snack boxes stopped coming, citing safety concerns. The small, steady life of the center took tiny hits. The DA's office dug deeper. Anna worked with a cyber team to trace the bank transfer ghosts. Brooks found a paper trail leading not back to Hartman directly, but to a holding company run by an investment group called Graybridge Partners, Mr. Gray's outfit. The bank records showed small donations routed through shell accounts and then to other charities, making the original source hard to see. It was the same pattern Daniel used before, the same pattern that had almost destroyed me. Lena called Mr. Gray's firm for comment. A polite woman answered and said, "We do not comment on client relations." Mr. Gray's face appeared in my dreams, calm, clean, too smooth. He had visited the center once and asked many questions about donors and how quickly we could grow. At the time, I thought he was simply interested. Now his interest looked like a plan. Brooks called a meeting at the station. He brought photos and bank pages. "We have a name and a connection," he said. "Graybridge ties to people who used to work for Hartman & Co. It's messy, but it's real. We're building a case." I wanted to feel relief. Instead, I felt the old dread, the feeling that someone could take what I had built and burn it down. The center was not about me anymore. It was about people who trusted us. If the center fell, they would lose more than a building. One afternoon, I found a package on my doorstep. No note, just a small box. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a single object, a silver coin, old and worn, with a frog stamped on one side. On the back, a short phrase, engraved, not written, "Every debt is collected in time." I held the coin up and saw my own pale face in the metal. The coin felt like a threat turned into an heirloom. Someone wanted me to know that the web of control had new collectors. I called Anna and showed her a photo. "It's a message artifact," she said. "Old-style intimidation. They want to make you feel small." Her voice shook with anger. "They will try to tie you to a new scandal. Don't give them the chance." That night, we installed extra lights and a guard for the center. We arranged safe rides for volunteers. We posted signs telling people to come in peace. We tried to keep our small world safe. Weeks passed. The center stayed open. People still came. Small acts of bravery kept us going. But I could not turn the coin from my mind. Who at Graybridge had the power and the hate to keep pushing? Who wanted to use Daniel's name like a ghost to frighten the living? One night, Lena knocked on my door. Her face was pale. "I talked to a source," she said. "A woman who used to work for Graybridge. She said they liked the idea of controlling small charities, a way to expand influence. She also said someone in the firm met with a prison guard last month. A guard with favors to give, a prison guard." The word landed like a stone. Daniel's reach had never truly needed his hands. People in his world knew how to move things from inside. Lena tapped her phone. "The guard's name is on a visitor log. He met Graybridge's representative. 2 visits in the last 6 weeks. One of those visits is the same day the shell donation moved." My breath left me. This was no longer only about money. It was a plan, a chain of people who wanted control. Daniel's handwriting was only the voice. Graybridge paid the speakers. That night, I sat on the porch and watched the street. The coin sat on the table beside my tea. Caleb slept on the couch with his frog. The city hummed, unaware of the small war at its edge. I whispered to the dark, "If they think fear will stop us, they are wrong." But even as I spoke, the shadow moved. I felt it in the small things. A truck idling down the block late at night, a man watching from a cafe window. The collectors had returned. Their hands were cleaner, their methods newer. They wore suits instead of gloves. They bribed where their predecessors had threatened. I closed the door and locked it. The center had become a light again, but lights draw moths. If Graybridge wanted the center, they would not ask politely. They would push until I either broke or gave in, and I had one choice left: fight smarter. I would not let their shadow win. But as I turned to go inside, my phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen, from an unknown number with a single line: "We know where your son sleeps." My hands went numb. The night felt very close. The message glowed on my phone screen like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. "We know where your son sleeps." 6 words, simple, precise, deadly. It didn't come with a logo or sender ID, just those words, followed by an empty line. No reply option. No traceable number. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Then I looked toward the couch where Caleb slept, his little chest rising and falling in perfect rhythm, the frog still clutched in his hand. That was all they needed to see. That he was my weakness, my heart. And that was the line they were willing to cross. I called Brooks immediately. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Lock every door. Don't open for anyone." I'm on my way. Within 20 minutes, headlights flooded my street. 2 police cars pulled up, followed by Brooks's unmarked SUV. Officers moved quickly, checking corners, sweeping the porch, scanning windows. Brooks came in last. He looked at my phone, jaw tightening. "This is worse than intimidation," he said. "This is a threat to a child." "It changes everything," I nodded, my throat dry. "They won't stop, will they?" "No," he said softly. "Not until someone forces them to." The next morning, Brooks arranged emergency protection for Caleb and me. We moved into a safe house. Small, quiet, tucked behind a row of old warehouses on the edge of town. It wasn't home, but it was safe enough to breathe. Caleb thought it was a sleepover adventure. He didn't know the reason behind the new walls or the unfamiliar furniture. I envied him, his ability to see safety as an adventure instead of a cage. Martha stayed with us the first few nights. She cooked soup, read Caleb bedtime stories, and tried to fill the silence with gentle noise. But I knew this wasn't sustainable. They wanted fear, and fear only grew stronger in the dark. I couldn't hide forever. I had to fight. Anna met us at the safe house 2 days later. She brought files, coffee, and the look of someone who hadn't slept. Brooks traced the message, she said, spreading papers across the table. It came from a burner phone, purchased under a false ID linked to Graybridge Partners. My stomach twisted. So it is them. Yes, she said grimly. And it gets worse. One of their board members, the one signing all recent checks, is a man named Elias Gray. My hands froze. Mr. Gray, Anna nodded. The same one who offered you the partnership deal months ago. I felt anger rise in my chest like heat. He had looked me in the eye, smiled, and shaken my hand, pretending to care, pretending to help. Now he was sending threats about my child. Lena joined later that afternoon. She had already started digging through Graybridge's background. I found something, she said, pulling up her laptop. Graybridge isn't just a corporate firm. It's a laundering front for Hartman & Co.'s remaining assets. They're using charitable donations and legal loopholes to rebuild Daniel's empire, one donation at a time. I felt sick. So the money they tried to give us, Lena nodded, was a way to pull you back into their system, a trap. If you had accepted it, they could have claimed you were complicit in the laundering, using your name again. Anna sighed. They wanted to destroy your credibility before expanding their network of control. It's what men like Daniel did, only bigger, quieter, cleaner. Brooks leaned forward. Which means we don't just expose them. We crush them. Publicly. The plan came together that night. Anna would file a new federal case linking Graybridge Partners to Hartman's existing crimes. Lena would publish a full exposé, this time naming names. Every director, every investor, every transaction. Brooks would work with cybercrime investigators to pull phone logs, security footage, and location data tied to the threat message. I would do the one thing they never expected. Speak first. They wanted silence, fear, retreat. But I had learned silence is the weapon of the powerful. And I wasn't powerless anymore. The next day, Lena set up a live stream from the center's small office. The headline read, "She beat him once, now they're back, and she's ready." People from all over joined, thousands within minutes. My face appeared on the screen, calm but firm. I spoke directly into the camera. Months ago, I fought a man who tried to destroy my life. He failed. Now the people who once worked with him have returned. They've sent threats. They've tried to use fear, but here's what they forgot. You can't silence someone who has nothing left to lose but her truth. I lifted the silver coin Mr. Gray's people had. Sent, the one with the frog. Engraving. They told me every debt is collected in time. They're right. And now it's their debt that's due. The video spread fast, faster than we expected. Lena's article followed within hours, complete with screenshots, bank trails, and the anonymous message about Caleb. The story exploded online. The public outrage was instant. Graybridge's offices were flooded with calls. Reporters camped outside their headquarters. And government investigators reopened the Hartman accounts. Mr. Gray released a statement denying all involvement, claiming it was a smear campaign by emotional individuals. But the damage was already done. Anna smiled when she called me that night. They're unraveling, Nora, fast. I wanted to feel relief. But part of me stayed tense, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because men like Elias Gray didn't disappear quietly. 3 days later, Brooks called just before dawn. His voice was calm but urgent. They're making a move. One of Gray's assistants tried to transfer $10 million from a frozen account. We stopped it. But there's something else. What? I whispered. He hesitated. Gray is gone, the word echoed like a stone dropped in a well. Gone? His office is empty. His house cleared out. We found his car near the airport, but no sign of him boarding any flight. He's vanished. My hands went cold. You think he'll come after us? Brooks's silence said enough. That night, I tucked Caleb in early. He was giggling about frogs again, singing a little tune he made up. Frogs don't hide. Frogs don't cry. Frogs jump high into the sky. I smiled, but my heart ached. I couldn't tell him that somewhere out there, a man like Mr. Gray might be watching again, waiting for his moment. After he fell asleep, I stepped onto the porch. Rain was falling softly, like it always did when life decided to test me. I held the silver coin in my hand and whispered, "You can run, Elias Gray, but you can't hide forever, because if there's one thing I had learned, it was this. People like Daniel and Gray don't just build empires. They build ghosts. And to defeat ghosts, you can't just fight them. You have to outlast them." That night, lightning flashed in the distance, turning the sky silver for a moment. In the reflection on the window, I thought I saw movement, a shadow that didn't belong. Maybe it was imagination. Maybe not. But one thing was certain. The war they started wasn't over. Not yet. Months turned into years. The noise of that world, the courtrooms, the headlines, the threats, moved farther away. It did not vanish. It became history. I carried the marks of it like a scar. But scars can also be a map of where you have been and how you survived. The Lily and Frog Center grew quietly. We opened a second room for legal clinics and a small play corner so children could laugh while their parents talked. Volunteers came from near towns and far cities. Anna taught more lawyers to take cases for free. Lena gave workshops on safe storytelling for survivors. Brooke still dropped by to teach safety classes. Even Natalie found work doing office checks for other charities. People who had once been afraid to speak now helped others find voices. Caleb grew too. He was tall now, with long arms and a laugh that filled any room. He still folded paper frogs, only now his frogs sometimes had tiny drawings on them. Sunshine, houses, small hearts. He liked to hide them secretly in library books and bus stations, so strangers would find a small, strange joy. He said it was his way of giving courage back. I learned to measure peace not by the silence of danger, but by the quiet things that showed up every day. A woman who returned to court and won custody. A man who learned how to ask for help instead of losing himself to shame. A child who held his mother without fear. These were the lights that stayed. One spring morning, I walked into the center and found a notice pinned to the door. It was small and neat, written in a careful hand. "Hope training this Saturday. All welcome." Under it, dozens of names had been added. Volunteers from other regions, people who wanted to learn how to start centers like ours. I smiled until my face hurt. The small home we had made was now a model. People wanted to copy it and spread it. That was the kind of victory that did not end with a headline. It lived on in rooms and kitchens and small papers folded into frogs. Friends asked me sometimes if I missed what I had before, if I longed for the simple life before the crash, before the lies. I thought about that a lot. The old life had its comforts, but it also had blind spots. I had trusted the wrong man. I had let my guard down. Those were lessons that cost a lot. Now I saw that the cost had a purpose. My pain opened the door for others. It taught me who to trust and how to build safety that did not depend on one person's kindness. It taught me to check facts, follow money when it smelled wrong, and to act quickly when shadows moved. I taught those things to others. It became a way of protecting the center and the people who came to it. We kept the frog as our symbol. We made small pins for volunteers, tiny green frogs on a silver circle. When someone wore one, people in our community knew they were safe to talk to. The frog was no longer just a toy. It became a sign. You can tell your story here. You will be heard. Caleb helped with the design. He chose the bright green color and wished for every pin to have a small hand-drawn sun. "So people know there is light after rain," he said. His small wisdom still surprised me. He had been 4 when everything began. Now he taught others how to be brave in small, bright ways. There were days the past tried to creep back in. A journalist would dig up an old detail. A new man would try to talk to me and veer into old lies. Sometimes I would wake in the night, heart racing, thinking I heard a car on the street. But I could breathe through it. The alarms were real, but I had learned the signs. I did not live in the fear of those sounds anymore. Once I received a letter from a woman across the country. She wrote about her son and how the center helped her get a job and a home. She said, "We kept your frog in our window. It reminded us to be brave. Thank you." I read that line several times until the words sank in. My throat tightened. That letter was proof the light had spread. Years later, on an autumn morning, I walked to the small lake where we had floated paper frogs so many times. The dock was older now, the wood weathered but steady. Caleb came with me. He was grown and steady too, his voice deep and kind. He carried a bag of paper frogs folded by volunteers from many places. We sat at the edge and set them on the water. They bobbed and spun and traveled in small groups until they disappeared around a bend. It felt like a small ceremony, not loud, not claimed by the news, but real. "Do you ever think about him?" Caleb asked softly, watching the frogs glide. He meant Daniel, of course. It was the question I expected sometimes. "Yes," I said. "Sometimes. But mostly I think about where we are now. About the people who are safer because we stood up." I took a frog and folded it again, tucking a tiny note inside that read, "Live well." He smiled. "We made something that keeps others safe." He said it like a fact. He had become a man of facts, not fear. That gave me a quiet kind of pride. The center began to train others. People opened doors in other towns. Some called their centers similar names, lilies or frogs or brave houses. They sent pictures. One small town had painted a mural of frogs dancing in the rain. Another made pins with small suns. I kept each picture in a drawer, a quiet archive of the small lights we had helped kindle. We also kept our watchful edge. Anna built a small legal fund for centers that could be targeted by dangerous people. Brooks taught a network of neighborhood safety teams how to check suspicious activity without fear. Lena wrote stories that shared how to speak safely to reporters. We spread many small skills so other centers would not be alone. On the center's 10th anniversary, we hosted a small event. Survivors, volunteers, and a few officials came to speak. We had soup and warm bread and a table full of paper frogs. Someone made a small cake with a frog drawn in icing. People shared stories, small, strong moments of finding a job, removing an abuser, learning to sleep without fear. I spoke briefly. I kept it simple. "Thank you, keep going. We will be here for each other." Afterwards, a woman I had once helped came up and hugged me. She said, "You saved my life." Her words were not dramatic. They were true. That night I went home, closed the door, and sat in the quiet. I looked at the frog pins stacked on my table, tiny cosigners of a life rebuilt. I felt tired in a good way, like a book closed after a long read. Days moved on. I took long walks. I watched Caleb teach a new class at the center about helping children cope after trauma. He was good with them, patient and clear. He told them stories of small brave things, how a 4-year-old's truth could change a room. When people ask what saved me, I never give one answer. It was not only the law or the police or the press. It was not only Anna, Lena, Martha, or Brooks. It was many hands, many small truths, and one small boy who would not let his mother be silent. It was also the choice to refuse money that was not clean, to say no to power when it came wrapped in kindness. It was listening to a woman who risked everything to bring papers out of a locked room. It was accepting help when it came. I do not pretend there will never be storms again. There will always be weather. But storms feel different now. They are weather we prepare for. We build shelters, plant trees, teach children to fold frogs. The center endures because people made it so. One evening, years later, I walked into the center and found a postcard pinned to the community board. The picture was simple, a little frog floating on a pond under a bright sun. On the back, a note read, "Your light kept me. Jay." I pressed the card to my chest and felt something like a warm tide. The light had stayed. It had not burned out. It kept coming back in small ways. In notes, frogs, calls, and the hands that held them. I looked toward the window where the sun was setting. The light spilled across the room and turned the paper frogs golden for a moment. I smiled. The world was not perfect. But it was kinder than before. I folded a new frog and tucked it into my pocket. I would leave it in a book, or a park bench, or a mailbox, a small sign for someone who needed to know that they were not alone. Because a life rebuilt is a light that stays. And we, all of us who chose to stand, we were the ones who kept it burning.